hilarious because I have my notes printed out and everything for this review, and usually what I do is I have my little setup here where I break it into categories like characters and plot, and then at the top I just put thoughts so that while I'm just thinking about it I can type quick thoughts, and that's literally the only place I've written anything. I didn't break it down or anything. And then on the back I just wrote notes to myself because I just don't really know what to do here. But anyway.
Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be doing a review on Sweet Thing by Renee Carlino. So this is going to be a non-spoiler review of this book. This one is going to be a little bit all over the place because I actually just finished this book about finished at 11? So about 2 hours ago I finished this book, and normally what I like to do before I do reviews or my thoughts or anything like that, I like to let it simmer for a few days so I can just kind of think about it and kind of let my thoughts sit. But I wanted to do this video while it was still fresh in my mind, while I was still thinking about things. The only problem with that is that I also at the same time have so many feelings that I'm just not sure about that I feel like maybe I should let it sit, but for now I'm filming this video. If I think of things later on, I'll just sit down and record it and put it in where necessary and then post the video when I feel like I need to, but this was one of those that I really just needed to talk about now. So this is a new adult book told from only one perspective. A lot of books, young adult and especially new adult books, now are being told from dual perspective, you know, one chapter from the guy's point of view and one chapter from the girl's point of view, which I love, but this one was just told from the point of view of the female protagonist. This book is technically like a standalone, but there is another book that comes after this, and it's called Sweet Little Thing, and on Goodreads it is labeled as book 1.5, probably because it's about half the length of this one, but it's a continuation of this. So I guess it technically is a novella because of the length, but it is a continuation. It's not, you know, one of those retellings from the other person's point of view. It's not that. Although it is told from the guy's point of view, it is a continuation. So this book follows a 25-year-old girl named Mia who at the beginning of the novel is flying to New York. Her father has just passed away, so she is headed to New York to take over his family business, a little cafe that he owns in New York City, and she is there to kind of go through his belongings in his apartment, kind of tie up some loose ends and kind of get some things together while she decides what she wants to do with life. On the airplane, she gets seated next to this really, how would you explain Will? This really playful and energetic guy named Will who is afraid of flying, so they spend the entire flight talking, and she spends the flight trying to make him feel relaxed, and they get to know each other and start to form this friendship. And when they get to New York, they kind of exchange, not contact information, but sort of like where they spend time and the general area of where they live and stuff, so that if they want to get together and get coffee sometime, they know where to find each other. So when Mia gets there, she realizes that she would like to get a roommate with the extra room in the apartment, and by chance they meet again, and he ends up taking the other room from her. So they end up becoming roommates, and their friendship develops, and obviously it's a romance novel. You can see there's some kissing right here, and so obviously somehow a little romance starts developing, feelings start getting involved, but Mia is set on just being Will's friend for reasons that you find out in the book. So this book I was super excited to read. The reason I picked it up when I did was because Renee Carlino has a new book that is being released on August 18th. This will probably be posted after that release, but I'm filming it before. I believe it's already been released early at Books A Million, but I don't have one of those near me, so I can't pick it up. I wanted to pick this up now because I wanted to have read at least one of her books before picking up the new one, in case I wanted to slip that into my TBR when it came out. It looks super interesting. I knew I would probably want to read that one, and I definitely do. I was really excited about this book because it has a lot to do with music, and I love music, and it has way more to do with music than I originally thought. The whole music aspect of the book is very prominent. I mean, if you're a musician or if you love music, this is a great romance novel for you, because it is a huge part of the book, because the two characters bond over music and their love of music and stuff. There are a couple parts in the book where one of my favorite songs of all time is mentioned and played, and I really appreciated that because I don't really hear a lot of people ever talk about it. Wild Horses by the Rolling Stones. I love that song. I love every cover I've ever heard of that song. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, and it is in this book, so that made me really happy. I will say this is the most frustrating book probably one of the most frustrating books that I've ever read. I just wanted to grab Mia by the shoulders and shake her and say, why don't you understand what is right in front of you? The whole time, that's how I felt. I wanted to strangle her. That doesn't mean I didn't like Mia. I actually really did like Mia. But the whole time I just wanted to scream, why are you guys not communicating with each other? There needs to be more communication. They did not communicate their feelings together at all. And that just, if tiny things had been communicated earlier on in the book, things could have been solved much sooner. But obviously that couldn't happen because then the book wouldn't happen. So obviously that was the reasoning behind the frustration station that I had, but I still felt a lot of it. I understood that Mia was scared and she was obviously going through a lot of stuff, but they really just needed to communicate better together. That really, really, really drove me crazy. Despite all of that, I gave this book 5 amazing, well-deserved stars. Yep. And I loved it wholeheartedly. This is super complicated because I feel similarly about this book that I did about Beautiful Disaster. The whole like giving it 5 well-deserved stars, but also having frustration with it and having problems with it. I didn't really have problems with this book. I had frustration with this book, whereas Beautiful Disaster I had more problems with the book. But I still feel like, as with Beautiful Disaster, this deserves the 5 stars. And I will explain that to you. I loved this book wholeheartedly, 100%, because I was so attached and connected to the characters. Now, I love characters in a lot of the books that I read, and a lot of my favorite books, and a lot of the books that I give 5 stars, but I felt a connection with the characters. This is one of the books where I just felt attached and connected. How many times can I say those words? I just wanted them to be happy, and I felt what they felt, and I wanted them to have happiness in the end. I wanted things to work out so that they could be together. I was rooting for them the whole time. I was frustrated with them, but it was only because I wanted them to just be together already. Just like Ugly Love, the emotional impact that it gave me and that the emotions that it drew from me were such a huge part of this book. So similarly to Ugly Love, I cried when there were situations where, had I been Mia, I would have cried. So maybe she wasn't crying in the situation, or maybe she was, but that's when I cried. That's when tears were brought to my eyes, when a conversation was happening or a situation was happening where if I were Mia, I would have cried. And that's a huge deal to me. When an author and a book can bring that emotion out of me, it means that I was feeling the character. It means I was the character, and that's a sign of a good book to me. I mean, you guys know how I felt about Ugly Love. I had a lot of feelings about that book, and it's the emotion that it brings forth from you. That's a huge deal to me. There were even some times when I had to just put the book down and cry because I was so frustrated, and something would happen and I would just put it down and be like, what? Why is there no explanation for this? Why? How are you just here? How is everything just, how? Why? And I would just cry. And in frustration and in sadness and emotion and just all those reasons, I would cry. I really, really enjoyed the pacing of their relationship in this book. The beginning was a little slow, but it was because she was developing the characters and their lives and their relationship, and I think that's really important because it wasn't, there was no insta-love. There was like an instant attraction, obviously, but there was not insta-love. There was a lot of hardships, a lot of friendship growth, and the characters getting to know each other, and a lot of heartbreak before anything really happened between the characters. And so I really appreciated the pacing with that, because I think getting to know the characters better that way is a big reason why I felt so emotionally attached to this book and the characters' lives and what happened to them in the end. The slowness in the beginning definitely made it feel more natural. The characters had their own lives. They barely saw each other for a while, but it just made it feel more natural, made it feel like real life. I wish that they had seen each other more, but you know, when you're busy, sometimes you can't always hang out as often as you want to. So I just briefly want to talk about how I felt about the characters. Mia, the main girl, is frustrating, but I still really liked her as a character. She went through so much in this book. There was a lot of growth, a lot of fear on her part, and every time you think she's about to learn her lesson and come to some realization, you realize that she's not quite there yet. There was a lot of growth for her character, and all the other characters were kind of letting her do it at her own pace, but also kind of forcing her into it by not letting her get away with her attitude. They just didn't let her, you know, get away with feeling sorry for herself. They forced her to figure things out on her own. Will is the male lead in this book, and he is just such a peach. He's a musician, and he's so talented, and he's so sweet, and he's a good friend, and he's a good person, and he's so unlike some of the other males that I have read about. He's just so neurotic and dramatic, and he feels everything so strongly. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and I just feel like his charisma and his playfulness is just, it's so refreshing. He was such a refreshing character, and I just, even though sometimes he makes decisions that, you know, probably aren't 100% the best, he knows who he is, and he doesn't have a problem saying how he feels and apologizing when he needs to. He's just a really great character, and I loved him. I loved him so, so, so much. Guys, I cannot talk enough about how much I loved Will. There were a couple other side characters in the story. For instance, Jenny is Mia's best friend, and Tyler is Will's best friend. They were just so sweet. I loved them together. I loved them apart. They were good friends. They definitely added to the story. They contributed to the growth of the characters, and I think that they were a really good addition. Although I love Jenny, but I did have some problems with her. Sometimes she kind of bothered me a little bit. She seemed like kind of the all-knowing big sister that could do no wrong, and sometimes it just sounded a little high and mighty for me, the way that she tried to guide Mia as a friend. There were several instances where, as I said, I was frustrated with Mia and I wanted to tell her to just get her head out of her ass, but Jenny was just not cool about it. She wasn't sympathetic. A lot of times Mia would be really upset, and instead of, you know, listening to her and kind of gently telling her that maybe she should look at the things she's doing before she gets upset about other people, she just was a bitch, and I just didn't really appreciate that sometimes. I know that she was right, but there was just other ways that she could have said it that didn't come off so holier than thou. There is this thing that happens towards the end. The way it gets resolved, I felt that it was resolved a little bit quickly. I was kind of confused because no one really talked about the things that happened during this time period that there was something going on. No one really addressed them, and so that kind of frustrated me a little bit, but I am glad. I do like the way things turned out at the end of the book. I just thought it was a little abrupt. All that being said, I just loved this book so much. I loved it so much. So I'm able to look past all of the frustration that the book caused me and any little minor problem that I might have had with the book. I really enjoyed this book, and I immediately went online and I purchased the novella. I'm really excited to read it and to continue their story with a tiny little novella, and I'm really excited to keep reading because I just love the characters so much, and I'm feeling very lost now because I just keep thinking about it, and I want to know more about them, and so I just feel lost, and I keep reflecting on it, and I'm just like, damn man, like this book really just sat with me, and it was such a great story of finding yourself and figuring out who you are, right, you know, when you're done with college and wondering what to do next, which is a huge deal to me because that's kind of where I am right now in my life, you know, like just finished college and not really sure where to go next. So I really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend it. If you think it's a little bit slow at the beginning, keep going. This is one of those where it's not like the two characters spend every second together. Every time you read, they're together. There's a lot more of a story to this and a lot more depth. So I just really love that about this book. 5 amazing stars. I will do a review of the novella if you guys are interested. Let me know in the comments below, and I will do that when I finish it. I've got quite a few reviews coming up in the next couple months, so stay tuned for all of those. Anyway, this is going to be a really long review because I'm filming it and it's currently 25 minutes and I didn't really stumble or stop that much, so this is going to be a really long review. If you made it to the end, then snaps to you, you get a cookie because this is going to be a long ass video. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have read this book and what you thought of it, and I will talk to you guys very soon in another video. Bye everyone!